You know all those apps on your phone? Ever stop and think about how they actually get made? I mean, how does a cool idea become a real working product? Well, it's a journey. And believe it or not, it's way more structured than you might think. It's all about turning that creative spark into software that actually works. So let's dive in and break down exactly how that happens. Okay, so let's say you have a brilliant idea for an app, maybe sketched out on a napkin. Now what? How do you take that little spark of genius and turn it into something real, something millions of people could actually use? It's a super fascinating process, for sure, but it's also a really dangerous one if you just try to wing it. Yeah, because without a solid roadmap, even the best ideas, I mean the absolute best, can just completely fall apart. We're talking a total mess of missed deadlines, budgets that are just blown to bits, and you guessed it, failure. The stakes are just incredibly high. So how do the pros, the people who do this for a living, avoid all that chaos? Well, they use a secret blueprint. Okay, maybe not so secret. It's really a framework, a system that brings order to all that creative chaos. It's what makes sure that the thing that gets built is the thing that was actually needed. And, that it's done on time and on budget. This is the real key to turning a great idea into a great product. And this blueprint has a name. It's called the Software Development Lifecycle, or as everyone in the biz calls it, the SDLC. This is basically the industry's official answer to chaos. The best way to think about it is like a recipe with a series of really well-defined steps. It guides the whole project from the very beginning to the very end and helps manage all the risks and make sure the final product is top-notch. All right, so how does this blueprint actually work? Well, it breaks the whole thing down into 6 main phases, 6 logical steps that take you all the way from idea to launch. And it all flows together pretty logically. First, you've got requirements analysis. This is where you figure out what you're even building. What does it need to do? Then comes design, which is all about how you're going to build it, the architecture, the look and feel. After that, it's implementation. That's the fun part, the actual coding. Of course, then you have to test it, and I mean really test it, hunt down all those bugs. Once it's good to go, you deploy it. You push it out into the world for people to use. And finally, there's maintenance, because the job's never really done, right? You've got to support it and roll out updates to keep it running smoothly. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Not everyone follows those 6 steps in exactly the same way. There are actually different philosophies, different models for how to go through this life cycle. And the 2 biggest ones, the 2 most famous, are called Waterfall and Agile. This is the big choice every team has to make. First up, let's talk about the classic, the Waterfall Model. And the name is perfect, just picture a waterfall. Everything flows in one direction, down. You complete one phase, and only then do you move to the next. You can't go back up, so you have to finish all of the requirements gathering before you can even think about starting the design. And you have to finish the entire design before a single line of code gets written. It's super structured, pretty simple to manage, and honestly, it's perfect for projects where you know exactly what you need right from the get-go. But what happens when you don't know everything up front? Which, let's be honest, is most of the time, right? Well, that's where Agile swoops in. Agile is basically the polar opposite of rigid. It's all about working in these short, fast cycles called sprints. In each sprint, the team builds a small piece of the software, tests it, and gets feedback right away. It's built for flexibility, for teamwork, and for being able to adapt to change on the fly. So right there, you can see the huge difference in philosophy. It really comes down to a choice. Do you need a super structured, predictable plan? That's Waterfall. Or do you need the freedom and flexibility to adapt and change as you go? That's the heart and soul of Agile. There's no single right answer. It completely depends on the project you're working on. But wait, the choices don't even stop there. Because for those really huge, really complex projects, I'm talking high stakes, sometimes even life or death situations, you need something even more specialized. These are the models built for the absolute most demanding jobs out there. Yeah, for the real heavy hitters, like imagine you're building software for a NASA space mission. You might use the spiral model. This one is kind of like Agile on steroids, but with a massive focus on risk analysis. With every loop of the spiral, the team is planning, building, but most importantly, they're assessing risk. They're constantly asking themselves, what is the worst thing that could possibly go wrong here? And then, for situations that demand extreme, absolutely perfect quality control, you've got the V model. You can think of it as an evolution of Waterfall. For every single development step, there's a matching testing step planned right alongside it, in parallel. This is the go-to for safety-critical systems. We're talking about software for medical equipment or the braking system in your car, places where failure is just not an option. Okay, so let's just pull this all together for a second. Looking at this, you can really see the trade-offs, right? If you need a stable, predictable project, Waterfall is your friend, but you're giving up flexibility. If your project is constantly changing, you need Agile sprints, which give you all the flexibility in the world. And then for the really high-stakes stuff, you have Spiral, with its laser focus on risk, and the V model, with that intense parallel testing for systems that absolutely cannot fail. Which brings us to the big practical question. How on earth does a team actually choose the right path? What are the real-world things they have to think about to make this call? You know, one developer I read about put it perfectly. They said they pretty much always work with Agile because that continuous feedback loop is just so good for dealing with customers who are always changing their minds. But, and this is key, they also said that for a small, simple project where the goals are crystal clear from day one, sometimes the straightforward, no-fuss approach of Waterfall is actually the smarter choice. It really is all about picking the right tool for the job. And that really leaves us with one big thought to chew on. This whole choice between models, it all boils down to a single fundamental question. In a world that is just constantly changing, where technology and what users want evolves by the minute, what's more valuable in the long run? Having that perfect detailed plan from the start, or building a team that has the power to adapt, to pivot, and to handle whatever the future throws at it? Something to think about.